Greetings, humans, and welcome to the Endgame with your host, Nomono, Poplopo, and guest star, Psy.
Oh, you've been demoted to guest star too.
Alright, robot.
Please be sure to obey all rules or else you will be hitting with neurotoxin.
Gladys, you and I have to talk after this.
I think Gladys out of the door.
Oh, God.
So today we're talking about dreams, and that's going to lead us off in a bunch of different directions that are going to relate directly to the metaverse and what we're doing right now. So this week, this week we're doing the community spotlight with Mad Men. And so the question is, where are we going? Like, how is humanity doing? Where do you think we're heading in the near future? And then all the way off, the ending.
Okay, so, obviously AR is probably going to be a big thing, but that also means that we're going to end up sacrificing a hell of a lot more freedom. Because with AR, the sensors, they're going to be everywhere. Like, you're not going to be able to escape that. They're literally going to have great shots of, like, everybody's face for, like, eternity. But basically, through that, it'll be interesting to see what the new addictions will be. Will they start to be a lot more digital? Because for some of us, it is kind of an addictive thing.
Yeah.
But it isn't necessarily destructive. With the future, we'll have to see where all this stuff goes and how much people sacrifice themselves to the digital realm when it comes to, like, building their life.
Can you go way off and just, like, guess about the distant future? Like, you sounded pessimistic earlier. How far do you think we're going to make it here?
Well, I mean, there's always a possibility we won't make it past the next 5 years. But like the really far future, if we can survive that long, it'll probably be, hopefully we'll start exploring outside of Earth. It'll be interesting to see if they do studies of zero-G VR.
Imagine playing alone.
Talk about nausea.
Actual zero G.
GR
trademark.
We thought nausea was bad.
If you had to get over zero-G anyways, it would be a good way to deal with like long trips.
But actually,
because then you wouldn't feel like locked in.
Yeah, and what if you had an accelerometer in the headset and then it actually corrected so you didn't feel like you were floating in circles or something like that? Like the environment could be changing. So do you think space is
research on VR in zero G? I remember watching a video by VRchat recently where he went on a plane to go do like very low gravity experiments on that plane. On that plane, also, there's a guy who set up a VR system in there, and they got to try it a little bit too.
Oh, nice.
It's that one where they go up
the
really
like
high
vomit comets and stuff.
dive down and have like momentary.
Kind of like
the good old vomit.
vomit
That's
comets.
what
and stuff
astronauts
like
do in
that.
training.
So what do you think about space? You mentioned space. So do you think we're going to primarily, as the future goes on, be living in space or on the Earth? Or
I think it'll probably be more of it could be a population thing. It really depends what happens with population growth. That's kind of what spurred on the whole, like, intercontinental travel and stuff. At least America. It's kind of a overpopulation thing, and people didn't like certain situations. So they went somewhere else.
So that could happen to the Earth too, as we get too full and we try to explore elsewhere.
Yeah, and stuff starts getting really, really bad with destruction of environment and pollution. Probably.
I mean, hopefully once we're off, I feel like there's a point where I feel like we'll be fairly safe as a species as long as like the whole galaxy doesn't erupt.
There's always a good possibility that like a giant radiation wave comes through and just kills us all anyways.
A micro black hole could pass through our solar system and like destroy, the sun and everything like that.
Black hole in general.
That happening.
For the most part.
Yeah, well, right, but it doesn't have to be a huge one either.
I think maybe we should start thinking about coming up with solutions about making us more adapted for space.
There's a one-way trip to Mars apparently going on.
Elon Musk. If you would, that's a good way to die. If you want to die, Elon Musk will send you to Mars.
Yeah,
Actually, I heard he's gonna let you die on the moon first. So if you want to die on the moon, he's gonna send you there first.
Oh, raise your hand if you want to go die on the moon.
Part of this whole thing.
No, not on the moon.
well, I don't want to die.
That one person.
You gotta die somewhere. If you were going to stay there.
I mean, when you talk about the end of humanity, would you mean like the end of humanity as it is now? Because if we start to become spacefaring, we'll probably not be the same if we're smart about it by the end of it.
Yeah, whichever way you can imagine it, dude. Like, either we're going to die or we're going to transition into a new phase. inevitably our biology won't stay the same regardless, and so
Yeah.
we're going to change no matter what.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We're all gonna
Exactly.
be one color maybe at some point.
We should find a way to do high
Sounds
pressure.
Martian.
Or no pressure. Sorry.
Yeah, we're not going to space, dude. It's all going to be virtual. We're stuck here. We're going to go inside.
I don't know about that.
That's my new
'Cause we're
decision.
gonna run out of
We're
material.
stuck in a world of
Sooner than later.
racism and bulliness.
All right.
Yeah,
Thank
well,
you
thanks,
so
man.
much.
a way to ship
Good
that
job.
stuff.
Thanks, Madman. Thanks for sharing your thoughts with us.
I'm glad your
So
views are as morbid as mine.
We're going to have to get into yours at some point so we can try and pick them apart. But not today.
Yeah.
Today we're talking about dreams.
Yay.
Do they mean anything? Are dreams important, or is it just a bunch of bullshit in your brain?
My dreams
Well-
mean something. I'm scared.
I mean, what they mean is, I mean, to determine something's meaning, you have to like to determine the meaning of a language, you have to be able to parse the language. You have to be able to know what to look for and what you're looking at. What we wanted to talk about is different ways of exploring dreams that could lead to a better understanding of ourselves generally, or maybe even the world or the universe at large. One of those ways of exploring is lucid dreams. Does anybody here have any experience with lucid dreaming?
I wish.
What's that?
Or does
Oh, wow, not
doesn't?
many.
Okay, so lucid dreaming is when you're in a dream, but then while you're in the dream, you're aware that you're dreaming. You look around at your environment and you know this is a dream. I'm not really awake right now. And then when you're in, sometimes when you're in a lucid state like that,
I wish
you
that would
can.
happen to me.
Well, it can happen. You can train yourself to do it with some more reliable effects than others. I've been trying for like years, and I've never gotten more frequency than like one lucid dream a month. But that's still like it's been
That's
really
still
interesting
better
to do. But lucid dreaming, you don't always have control in a lucid dream. I don't think I've ever experienced that. Like sometimes even when I wake up in the dream, everything is still just kind of going on as it is, and like I can't like reach out and affect stuff. Although I know that that's not always the case.
I thought that was the whole point. Yeah, I thought that was why we all wanted to lucid dream, so you could just fucking take off and fly around and do whatever you wanted.
You can fly for a period of time, but then you start to like drop. Like you always start to lose height, and then you're like, I can't fly anymore. Like,
what's that about? Because that is what happened to me. I was like, oh, I'm doing it. I'm lucid dreaming. I'm flying, and then I can't keep it up. Like,
it stops believing that you're capable of these things.
The longer my
closer it
dreams
gets
go, the
to
more physics and reality creep into them.
When you're in your world, do you have a totem?
No.
I have not been able to lucid dream since inception, so that
that movie ruined it for you.
You ruined it. Yeah.
So what about reality testing?
Reality testing in like if you're training to lucid dream, reality testing is a technique that you're supposed to kind of get into a habit of every day. So like every half hour or something, you're supposed to do something that's a reality test. Like you look at some text and then like look at it multiple times to see if it changes, or check the time to see if it changes, or try to like put your finger through your hands, which doesn't work if you're familiar with VR because clipping is like a normal thing. But basically, you're supposed to get into the habit of it, so that when you're dreaming, you'll also be in the habit of it, and that'll like trigger you to remember to check to see whether you're dreaming.
So that's definitely one that I got into. That's how I was able to figure it out like years ago. What are some other like good methods of getting into lucid dreaming? Like I know one is just keeping the habit of like a dream journal, because like that gets you to sort of remember your dreams more often. Like you're sort of exercising that part of your brain, remembering what's going on.
Yes.
Because you might be lucid dreaming and just not remembering it. So you got to get used to like remembering your dreams every night.
I do remember there were a couple of specifics that you could look for. Like I used to try to lucid dream and I could never do it. But one of them was dream signs, where there's certain things that happen in dreams that you tend to recognize. Another one, which is weird, and I don't know if this bears out or if it's just something that was said to me and made sense, but mechanical devices tend to malfunction more in dreams. Like a recurring sign that I see is I'll be going toward a light in my car, and I'll try to press my brakes and my brakes don't work, and I sail through the light. But for some reason, mechanical devices tend to be less reliable.
It sounds more like a nightmare.
That actually does.
I've heard that before too.
Yeah, I was very into lucid dreaming before I heard about VR. I honestly got into VR because I failed at lucid dreaming, but and what got me into that was this Kickstarter thing called like a face mask called a Remy.
Yep.
It's really interesting to start thinking about like of course they're hit and miss, but like thinking about all these like different products that they say that are going to give you like lucid dreams that they have like flashing lights and like what else EEG REM detectors, etc. Like I'm surprised that hasn't caught on.
Could it be because it doesn't work?
The thing is, well, it was interesting because I actually got my Remy and it has like flashing lights that's supposed to like indicate to you like, oh, you're in a dream. You can see these red lights. You should probably become lucid. And they worked somewhat. Like it actually made increased my lucidity, but I wasn't able to sort of see those lights. It's interesting that like lucid dreaming hasn't caught on as much as VR because like VR it's very like put it on, you're in there, but like the lucid dreaming is very like very personal experience,
You have all 5 senses.
Yeah, well, it's hard to do.
Yeah, you have all 5 senses. That's the thing. That's the difference between lucid dreaming and VR. You're able to connect socially through this medium, of VR, which is something that isn't proven with lucid dreaming. It's a very weird space, that it's a natural reality that we create within our minds, and like that's an amazing thing to think about,
So I'm really into lucid dreaming, and I've actually naturally been able to do it a lot, and without using any equipment or techniques or anything. And the two things I'm curious about are one, I'm like have a really imaginative mind, so my dreams are pretty bizarre. But I'm also wondering if people are more creative or not. I've never studied it, but question number one is sort of, are certain mindsets more open or easier to accept the lucid dreaming, or happens naturally? And then the second thing I've noticed, and I actually did some research on, is anything mechanical doesn't work.
I don't have that problem with machines. Funny enough, in my dreams, lucid or otherwise, they work really well. Like to the point
On
where
acid, people report the same kind of thing actually with mechanical objects not working as well.
On acid?
No. Just when they're on the substance,
okay.
But it's interesting because both acid and dreaming, I mean, there's a talk about like subconscious and your perceptual awareness. And so perhaps there's something about the human consciousness that's limited to real and living things. And somehow, both in a dream when you're having to explore mechanical objects, or when if someone's on acid or something and trying to interact with a mechanical object, perhaps there's some similar deficit in some kind of perceptual interaction with these kind of complicated inanimate objects or something like that.
Wait, I had a quick question following that up. Like Psych, he was mentioning he's doing it without having to do any testing or preparation. Like, are there certain types of people that remember their dreams more or have more active dream life? Like, does it matter what kind of person you are, or is it completely arbitrary?
I think it's not clear whether there's like a trait or whether it's something about someone's life and the way that they experience life. I'm not sure if everyone's aware that, like, we're all dreaming every night, and it's really a question of whether you're remembering your dreams. So it's actually possible that a lot of us are having lucid dreams, but we're just not remembering the fact that we're having a lucid dream.
That's part of what the dream journal is for. So if you keep a dream journal at night, you're not only you're not only just remembering the dreams that you had that night, but one of the hypotheses is that you're basically kind of training your brain to remember it better, as you're dreaming, so that it'll kind of remind itself to take better notes, while it's going through the actual dream, if it knows that you're going to be writing it down in the morning.
Well, actually, going all the way back to Sakayama, the headset you have, it uses lights to on a timer to try to create lucidity in your dream. That could actually be, because there's multiple people that sleep in VRchat. You could actually create a VRchat room that's like dark and then blinks after a certain amount of time.
Oh, yeah.
Are you guys talking about lucid dreaming?
How many people here have actually slept in VR? Like if you've actually slept, can you give me like a exclamation? Oh wow! It's like 1, 2, 3, 4.
How is that possible?
I've fallen asleep in VR.
I slept in a tree once.
I read on Reddit that people are saying that when you wake up and you're in VR, your mind sort of like calibrates it as more real or something. Is that true?
I did the opposite.
I don't know about that.
I woke up in real life and I was so confused why the tracking was so good.
On multiple, I've tried to teleport to my bathroom multiple times, waking up in the middle of the night.
Oh,
and I try to teleport towards my
That
bathroom.
happened to me after my first week of using VR. I went out to the grocery store and it was all the way on the other side of the block, and I instinctively just raised my hand to try and teleport to it, and I was like, whoa.
I'm curious about if whether dream life would change in VR. I guess if you could do it comfortably, could sleep comfortably, but like, would your dream change if you fell asleep in VR? Like, would that?
Well, I tried that.
I don't know,
Didn't happen
shift?
to me.
Part of this is like there's waking life triggers, which is a big when you're using in psychotherapy, if your dream is being analyzed, these are the kind of roots of how you associate like what's happening in the dream with what's happening in your real life. So I think the waking life triggers could be changed based on your VR experiences, because like, for example, this room could be a waking life trigger in a dream because we've been in it now.
Plus, I imagine it's different for different people. Everyone's dreams, I think, get cooked differently. Like, I just tend to dream about the stuff I did during the day. So if I did mostly VR for an entire day, it's likely I would have a VR related dream.
Yeah,
I still don't have VR dreams.
VR.
Psych said that everyone dreams every night. I haven't remembered a dream in I can't even tell you how long. God,
Me
do you
neither.
have apnea or anything like that? I noticed that. I do. I had apnea, and once I had that treated, I started dreaming a lot more and a a lot more frequently.
It's like a CPAP machine or something?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
use a CPAP. That's why I can't sleep with VR on. I need other hardware on my head to sleep, so I can't have this hardware on my head. I got to swap hats.
You do use the CPAP, so
Yeah, I
then you
use
are getting
CPAP.
the
I've
REM
been using
sleep.
CPAP for like 2 or 3 years now.
There's also this thing where dreams get deleted from your memory a short time after you wake up. So usually, if I want to remember a dream, then as soon as I wake up, like before I even sit up, before I have the energy to sit up, I just repeat out loud everything that I dreamed, because your brain basically deletes what it constitutes as not real, as not having actually happened. So once you repeat it out loud, you make a real world memory of it, so it doesn't delete it.
That's interesting. When I'm trying to remember the dream, it erases as I'm trying to remember. So that's really interesting.
Another thing I've found that helps on the remembering your dreams, lucid or otherwise, is when you wake up, don't move. I found out the other way around, that if you have a terrible dream that you really do not want to remember, as soon as you've woken up, start moving around as much as you can, like walk around the house. And I find, at least for me, that makes it much harder for the dream to even kind of get set in your memory at all.
Have you guys seen those experiments that they take a cat and they disconnect some part of the brain to the physical body, and the cat acts out like chasing a butterfly? Yeah, there's like videos. I know it's pretty sad, but like there's something that shuts off your physical body when you're dreaming, and if it wasn't, you'd be running around your bedroom and bumping into walls.
I think environment has a lot to do with like Pinky might have this issue. Like, I don't remember any of my dreams, but almost every time when I'm waking up and going immediately to work. So when my alarm goes off, I jump out of bed and I have to get ready. Where when I was in college, I used to always do my first class and then I'd go take a nap in this lounge, right? The sun's up. And every time on the sofa, I would have lucid dreams every single time.
I know that for me, it's kind of weird. I kind of feel like I enter the dream state before I'm completely asleep. I'm not sure why, but often I catch myself like in the time when I'm falling asleep when I realize, hey, I just started dreaming even though I wasn't fully asleep yet.
That sounds like one of the dream, like the techniques that you or that you kind of learn to do, is that you kind of go immediately from waking to dreaming without that middle part. Yeah.
Wake-induced lucid dreaming, I think it is, or wild.
Yeah. The
That's
wild method.
In high school, when I was really tired, like early in the morning, I used to fall asleep, and I would always dream like immediately as soon as my head hit the desk.
I do notice because I have a weird sleep schedule. I'll go to bed and then I get up about a couple hours before I have to go to work, do my stuff, and go like back down, fall asleep till I have to walk out the door. I do notice almost every time in that like hour and a half, 2 hours of additional sleep is almost always accompanied by a dream.
I think there's a different technique. There's another technique that involves interrupted sleep, where you're supposed to wake yourself up and then go back to sleep.
Yeah.
I hear that just talking about dreams just naturally helps you sort of achieve lucidity. So
You're thinking about
We're all
Yeah,
going to
this-
do it tonight, man.
Yeah,
I hope so. Yeah, if anybody has a lucid dream tonight, come tell us about it.
We're actually
Yeah.
asleep now, and we're all having lucid dreams together.
Wait, whose dream is this?
Yeah.
I used to really want to lucid dream. I used to keep trying to do that, but
I think now, if given the option, I would actually prefer to have a normal dream. It sort of like puts you in this movie, and only after you finish the movie, you know you've been in it. It has its own appeal.
One quick question, because something that didn't occur to me. Like the reason I got into lucid dreaming because I thought it'd be fun. I do a bunch of shit I couldn't do in real life. But I think you brought up the ability to like talk to characters in your dream, because like you
Yeah,
really are
that's
talking
something
to a
I-
version of yourself or like
Right.
different parts of your brain.
Well,
Like that seems incredibly valuable.
yeah, like
The
I mentioned that when I
subconscious.
lucid dream, I can't control anything. But what I do get to do is have conversations with my dream characters, and whenever I converse with a dream character, they always know that they're dream characters, and we usually will have a conversation about the nature of like the dream that I'm in, and like I'll try to ask questions about them and like understand what exactly they are. So like they'll tell me that they exist in other ways, that they exist
Oh,
in
you have to
other
break the
realms,
news to them.
and that
You have to be like, no, I'm
Well-
sorry.
When I'm dreaming, sometimes I do wonder if it's other realms, or if it's other dimensions, if it's other. Because some of these characters and some of these things that happen to me anyway, I don't feel like I could make up.
I mean, this is where in psychotherapy, there's like my old mentor, like Clara Hill. She has a model in psychotherapy of how to analyze dreams, and part of it is like you do this process of like choosing 3 images from the dream that are, and then you describe them in first person, and then you go through and talk about free association with each image that occurs to you, and then waking life triggers that are related to each image. And then you can actually come up with a way to change the dream or resolve the dream. So there's like this whole process. It's like an hour and a half long process, but you basically try to reactivate the underlying emotions that the person experienced in the dream by vividly describing like these 3 images. And it's interesting because I've listened to interviews or like psychotherapy sessions that were recorded about this, and people will often actually find waking life triggers after they've gone through and described the images and reactivated those emotions. Then they'll realize that, oh yeah, actually in my childhood, there was this one object that reminded me of that really strange character, or, you know, so sometimes you have to kind of reactivate that underlying emotional state to actually get back to those waking life triggers and connect the dots of like where in real life these characters
is that
could be
like
coming
how can
from.
you know that it stemmed from that like childhood place and wasn't just an association that was made after the fact?
You don't. I mean, that's true, and I think this, you know, there's these dream books or whatever that say, oh, this symbol always means this. I mean, at least in the psych community, that's kind of regarded as kind of, you know, pseudoscience or something, because really it doesn't matter. Like if it can provide insight into someone's own life and it can say, oh, you think this is related to something in your childhood. Okay, was it a conflict? Was it something that you had to struggle through? Can we talk about it now? Is it bringing up something that you wouldn't have necessarily brought up in a therapy session had you not thought about that symbol in childhood? But yeah, it could be a placebo. It could be like, oh, I'm just remembering this from childhood, even though it didn't actually happen.
It's Inception, basically.
I got a crazy question. When you remember your dreams, how many people dream like obscure future things?
I quite often I'll have the sensation that something occurs and I dreamed about it previously. It's a type of deja vu where rather than feeling like it's occurred before, you feel like you dreamed about something.
But you're talking about in the context of noticing after the fact. I think Madman means like I know that this is the future in the moment of remembering the dream.
Oh, maybe but it's a trick that your mind does to make you think that like, oh wow, I dreamed about this. You didn't, but you feel like it.
I remember the dream and then it happened. Like,
But you're right. It's
not
always
like
totally
anything.
inconsequential. It's like a moment where like nothing important is happening, and it doesn't really. Nothing is going on, but it's like, oh, this moment. I knew this moment was coming, and it's like I'm turning left on a street. Oh, I knew this moment was coming. It's
it's kind of small stuff
inconsequential.
like that,
this daily.
But there are some other stuff.
I think this is like valuable, right? If you explore it and sort of analyze it, but as long as you're not like locked into things, right? Psych, like you mentioned that book where like the symbols are very if when your teeth fall out, it always means this, and you know, there's some
like
kind of
the
answer.
moon, yeah.
And, like, that's not
I was
true,
wondering
and we
if
probably
teeth were gonna
shouldn't
get brought
like
up.
rely on that. But we can
Yeah.
still
It's a springboard
analyze the
into
symbols.
your
They might
unconscious.
mean something to you.
I had a bunch of dreams throughout the 80s when I was a teenager. This was way before 3D games, right? I had a bunch of dreams about being in the military, running through little caves, like really squared off caves, 15 years before the first person shooter ever came out. And now that I think back on it, those dreams seem an awful lot like all those games I played later in life.
One of the theories about the deja vu thing is that it's just your mind processing something twice in quick succession, and you're not conscious of
I
it.
understand that deja
I like
vus
that
are
idea.
When your mind accidentally stores something in long-term memory instead of in short-term memory. That's what I heard.
Yeah, like it hits short-term, long-term memory first, and then short-term memory.
Your body just accidentally processes your visual stimulation before it processes your audio stimulation or something like that, and it feels like it's happened twice in a row.
Yeah, it sounds like nobody knows.
Short-term and long-term memory are not necessarily two different things. It's more networks. Deja vu seems to fit in with the idea that we're actually predicting our environment continuously. So this idea that how do we put all our senses together is that we're actually predicting what's going to happen in the moment, and our attention is drawn to violations of that prediction. So if someone changes an avatar all of a sudden, your attention is drawn to that because it's a change in the environment you didn't predict or whatever. Like,
But the experience is that it's like you did predict it.
Somewhere in that process of prediction, it's like a second time occurring of that prediction, as opposed to thinking that your brain is sorting sensory stimuli into either long-term or short-term memory, because everything goes through your short-term memory and processing of your environment, and then it's stored in long-term memory. So it's not like things can it's not a dichotomous, like, oh, this sensory stimulus is going to be put in long-term memory and this sensory stimulus is going to be put in short-term memory.
We're kind of talking about dreams in general, and dreams obviously are part of our out of our past and present and hopefully our future, but kind of wanted to get to what the environment that we're in right now. Someone over here joked that that we were all in a dream together, but I mean, if you look at it a certain way, in our minds during dreams, our mind is generating this artificial reality for us to inhabit temporarily, and but right now we're just using our program technology to achieve the exact same thing, but we all get to inhabit the same dream together. But the similarities seem kind of striking. In fact, I wonder if you could even, I don't know, like, can you psychoanalyze the virtual dream, the metaverse, as if it were a dream?
Well, I imagine you can analyze it in the same sense that you can analyze the choices any person makes in their real life. Like, if you can analyze someone's fashion sense, and you can analyze someone's avatar. If you can, analyze how they choose to portray themselves, etc.
Could you use information about what the metaverse is like to learn new things about humanity in general, like collectively, if we're all gonna, especially as the population grows?
An artifact of humanity.
Right.
I think they made some experiments with Facebook in which they illegally switched things around in people's news.
Manipulate
and then they
emotion.
gauged their reaction. So you could actually use like the things that happen in VR as a part of a psychoanalyzing mass amounts of people.
Anthropological study too.
So there's more meat when you're analyzing the metaverse, right? Like, as opposed to, like, he's calling it a cultural artifact or something. Like, maybe like history, you could look into history and analyze things that have happened. But this is the most dream-like thing we've ever done, where like we create ourselves, we create the environment, we end up doing whatever we want. And so, like, it's the closest you can look into, I think, what our dreams are, right? Like what we want to see.
As the metaverse progresses, and as like more people come into it, and as more of it gets developed and stuff, you could say that it's almost an expression of like a collective human consciousness. Like, you could say that, like, humanity as a whole, like, subtly shapes the metaverse, to suit what they want.
We build the metaverse according to what we want, right? But if the metaverse gets big enough and forceful enough, it will in turn influence us. And so instead of being this thing that we're creating, it'll reach back and take part in creating us as well.
So Sarah was mentioning that. So I'm just reading off what she said. Perceptually, our wants and desires will perpetually be based on the norm that we ascribe to.
This medium is new in the fact that, and I think that's what Poplopo you're getting at too, is like it is more dreamlike in that we can create fantastic realities and be different people that we would never be able to be.
Right, the constraints on
what
it.
is Mr. Pinky? Like, look at that. Like, you can't do that.
Yeah,
in
like
real
what
life.
is that?
Like,
Yeah, like you can't see anything. Like I see that.
I don't actually think virtual reality is, the beginning of this culture. I think it did begin with more standard virtual worlds such as Second Life and all those. I definitely think that virtual reality gives it another big step, and the more it grows, it'll probably grow in a similar direction.
It stretches actually further back than that, like even going so far as New Worlds and even old text-based ones. It's less about the technology that drives it, but more the evolution of this world that we are creating together. This sort of non-corporeal one.
Like with Second Life, what you've got with other pieces of media is just images on a screen. The experience of actually being somewhere is what's being created here. It's not just images on a screen anymore. It's a perceptual experience being generated.
There's a study that actually came out just now that compared memory, looking at a 2D screen with immersion in a headset, and they found that the memory you create from an experience is more like a real life memory that you have in VR, whereas with the 2D screen it's very different. It's like a kind of fragmented small memory or whatever. But Gallium, what were you going to say?
Some cultures, the world of dreams is often also the same as generally the underworld. Like in the in Greek mythology, it is the various different gods and goddesses of the dream, the sort of the dreamlike things. Morpheus, Hypnos, and I think a couple of others. They also hang around in Hades, the underworld. The underworld or the world of dreams is often the first stage in, I don't know, going further beyond what generally people perceived as the base reality. The question I'm putting forward is, as humanity, we've created essentially a piece of technology that in a way allows us to, in a currently a pretty hacky and mucky way, but enter into a shared world of dreams.
Gorgeous.
I know, but what could that really be? Are we sort of...
I like that idea.
With virtual reality, are we taking the first step? Who knows why?
All sorts of different cultures, dreams are seen as like the contact point with the other side. It's part of a huge kind of tradition of humanity. Like our fiction has always been a part of our world, but as we've gotten more and more ways of communicating, like first with the printing press and then with pictures and then moving pictures and then, interactive devices that we can type on and receive a response instantly from another person. We're making our fiction more and more, like you said, we're giving it more and more fidelity each time. We're capturing that in a new way each time and making it a deeper and deeper experience for us.
I find it really interesting how little there's actually people getting immersed into a role in virtual reality. You'd think there would be more like role plays and stuff like that. I've not even seen anyone do that. I mean, it might exist, but
shameless plug for
I think
the on Sundays.
I think it has to do with the environment, because I've done role playing in VR, but in the context of a game. So like coming here to VRchat where it's really open and like there's not much context, like that makes it harder to role play. But if there is a specific context, like in Owlboy's Pug, which is a bar, like you can like role playing as like a bartender or a patron is like very, very common. That does happen.
That's
I think
less
it's
thinking
on
into a
its way.
character and more just your interaction with your environment. Like I when I was at his pub, I acted like a patron, but regardless of my avatar, I still acted as myself. I wasn't adapting a character onto myself, though.
There's no context for it.
But what I'm saying is, like, there's the whole area of VRchat, like the role play rooms or whatever you call them. It's like this whole big area. And I never see anyone else really there.
I think it's because of the context of the story. Like, people role play in the Star Trek game, right? Like, isn't that the thing that you do?
I've heard
Basically, I
there are
think it's
upcoming
on its
more
way.
RPG games.
Role playing, I mean.
Yeah,
I think that's inevitably where we end up. I think we're gonna go away from other entertainment and embody it ourselves. Right? We'll all be a part of the story, and it's gonna include a lot of new technology and a lot of new shit. It's gonna be awesome.
I just had one more comment about that role playing thing where with the pug and stuff, I don't ever think about it as classic role playing like you are. I think VR makes it a little bit different where maybe you can role play, but then it becomes a very specific thing that you really have to work at.
I think it exercises your acting abilities a lot more.
For sure.
Right.
That's
what I'm getting at. I don't think I'm acting. Role playing sounds like acting to me. You're acting a role. I don't act when I'm in the pug. I'm just myself, but I happen to be a bartender. That's the thing. You know what I mean? It's a little bit different, and it's weird because I just embody it, and I do what's natural, and it's good for helping me, just interact with people. And the people that come into the pug and interact with me, I don't think they think they're role playing either. I think they're just naturally doing cultural cues.
Yeah, no, that's what I was saying. When I was there, I was just a patron. I wasn't a character, which is why I thought it was kind of different than actual role playing, which is what I was.
Why don't we just start one then?
Yeah, I think you should.
Why don't we just start a room?
Yeah, Decidious.
Fucking do it.
Yeah. Sarah actually said something that's interesting in talking about VRchat kind of being a dream in a way. So VRchat's kind of like a cognitive representation of a dream, whereas normal dreams were kind of controlled by the subconscious mind. So in VRchat we have a conscious choice and the avatars and the worlds that we make, whereas in a dream our subconscious mind kind of throws stuff at us without much of our control. So it's still a dream. Like VRchat is like a dream, but it's like a cognitive experience.
Yeah, but how about maybe it's the dream of the collective subconscious?
Yeah, well, it is. It is in a way. Actually, that actually is true.
I like that.
I think that it is
I think
a
that was a
collective
good
dream
nugget.
as opposed to
Life is the most lucid dream.
Wouldn't it be the collective
Or are
conscious though?
You need to wake up.
Since
Less.
But there's plenty of subconscious information there too.
Yama, you're gonna bring us in for the close here.
Do you need to
all right,
consciously or subconsciously?
We need a last nugget of wisdom from Psych.
Yeah, you got it for us?
Yeah.
All right, I think I got it one then. So we were talking about, dream characters and role playing and other things like that. You were saying before that you sort of thought of your dream characters as almost like real people, but like something separate from you. The way I sort of think about it, it's your your conscious mind, your awareness interacting with your subconscious mind. The dream characters, the thing that's creating these worlds without you sort of like yourself actually creating it. It's this sort of balance between the two. In VR, we're using our conscious minds to sort of interact with people, and when we go into dreams, it's all sort of what we've absorbed from the day, and our brain is processing it through a dream almost. Yeah, that's sort of how I see things.
Cool. All right.
So the metaverse is sort of processing what's happening to us culturally. in a way,
processing processing our real life.
All right, thank you everybody for coming. We got to do a group photo. Let's do it. Should we all line up over there by Gallium and Hellboy?
Can we all do?
Should I be in this?
Yes, lay down.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're here.
Yeah, can you lay down?
Psycho.
I'm a transition so I can get back.
What's wrong with me?
Okay, hurry up. Whoa, wait.
Oh, thank goodness. It was all a dream.
Yes. It was but all a dream.
What the?
It was all a dream.
Oh my god!
Or was it? Question mark.
I wanna see a change tonight, a change tonight.